Hi guys, and welcome to the Stephen King Cemetery Club. The Man Who Would Not Shake Hands is another installment of the Gentleman's Club in New York that we first saw in The Breathing Method. Now, all the men in this are quite old and they've, seen a lot of things, unexplainable things, and it's just intriguing to me that such a club could exist. It makes me think of the Midnight Society from Are You Afraid of the Dark? So the person telling this story is George Gregson, and he says, quote, "I once saw a man murdered right in this room, although no juror would have convicted the killer. Yet at the end of the business, he convicted himself and served as his own executioner." Page 327. Very promising beginning, super intriguing. And what I really like about this one is it's so ludicrous, but the idea of it is it's clever. It's a clever story. This happened in 1919, and George Gregson, the guy who's telling the story, he was 19. He had just come back from World War I, and his fiancée had died a few months previously of influenza. And he was kind of spiraling, he was spending a lot of time at this gentleman's club, and he was drinking a lot, gambling a lot, and there was always a poker game going on at this club. So he and his friends were playing poker, and they invited this stranger who looked like he was longing for companionship. They invited him to play. And when they introduced themselves, all this stuff, when someone went to shake his hand, the stranger freaked out. He was like, "Don't touch me," And he kind of chalked it up to being a germaphobe. So the stranger's name is Henry Brower, and he is just horrified at the thought of human touch. This is a very long poker game, and when it's finally over, it was a very tense last hand, and I don't really understand poker. I don't care to understand poker, but Stephen King went into great detail about the hands that everyone had, and the guy who was in it till the end with Brower lost, and he reached across the table and grabbed Brower's hand, and Henry shrieked dramatically. It was like someone had killed him. Like the grasping of his hand was too much, and he shrieked, bolted, left his money. He was just out. Gregson chased him down, and they're standing there on the street, and Gregson's like, "I'm sorry, Davidson, who shook your hand, he's just an eager kid. He didn't realize, he'd forgotten, that you have this quirk." And Brower summons this mangy dog over to him, and he talks about how this dog is a pariah, and he makes the dog stand by him, and he grabs the dog's paw, and the dog is like uncomfortable, not wanting to be there. It's kind of, it knows its place in this situation, but it really is not liking this. So Gregson finally says, "Hey, I will go get your money if that's okay. You wait here if you don't want to go back in the club with me." Brower agrees. Gregson goes to the club. He gathers up the money. The men feel terrible. The people who are playing poker with them, they just, feel like it didn't have to end this way, and, it wasn't a big deal to them, but obviously it's a big deal to Henry Brower. So Gregson goes back, and Henry is gone. There's no sign of him, but the mangy dog is dead. Dead. The next morning, Gregson has discovered some things about Brower and his time in the war, and he was driving an automobile in India, and he loved it. He drove around in it. People were afraid of it because they had never seen such a thing before, and, back in the day, it wasn't a super safe thing. And it was easy to start the car. It was easy to have an accident. It was easy to, if you weren't careful, that bad things could happen. So there were some unattended children playing with that car. One of them accidentally started it and ended up dying. The child's father cursed Henry, saying that anything he touched would die. Anything he touched with his hands would die. So, Later that day, they find out that the guy who grabbed Henry's hand at the poker table is dead at 22 of a coronary incident, which is, not normal. Gregson does track down Henry Brower and finds out from the person who was renting Henry his apartment that Henry died. And the way he died was he was holding his own wrists. So he was shaking hands with himself, and that killed him. Which I wonder, would that work? Had he never touched himself at all? Like, did he have to actually grasp his hand for a long period of time? Like, how long does he have? Did he have to be uber cautious, like in the middle of the night, if you're not paying attention, you're sleeping? What if you shake hands? There was just all these things. I don't know. It was a clever end. I liked it. There was also allusion made to the fact that Stevens, the butler, is the guy who was there in 1919, but he's like, no, that had to have been my great-great-grandfather, because obviously, I'm not immortal. And, Gregson says, quote, "There is a remarkable resemblance between you and your, did you say grandfather, Stevens?" Page 328. So I do like that it pokes fun at it, because the men know that Stevens has just been there forever. And, it was Stevens, even though he insists that it couldn't have been because of the age thing. So that is the man who would not shake hands. I really like that story. I enjoy the Gentleman's Club. I like that they tell stories. I like cursed element to this, the fact that Henry was forced to live the life of a pariah, like the mangy dog, and it's unfortunate because it was a genuine accident. He didn't try to shirk responsibility or blame someone else. So it's unfortunate that people get cursed over things that were truly accidents. But what can you do? Have a spooky day.